RCMP are investigating alleged Chinese police stations in Quebec. This is the Great White North Report. Alright, Global News broke the story yesterday. I haven't seen anything on CBC yet about this, but the RCMP are investigating allegations of two so-called police stations in Quebec that are suspected of being operated by Chinese government officials. This is something that came out earlier this year. There have been allegations in many countries around the world that the Chinese Communist Party are operating secret police stations to monitor their own citizens, plus those who have emigrated abroad. So the RCMP confirmed by email Thursday morning an open investigation by the Integrated National Security Enforcement Team in the province into two alleged outposts, one in Montreal and another in Brossard, a suburb on the city's south shore. So anyway, there's a huge population of recent immigrated Chinese from the mainland. The federal police added it's possible that Chinese Canadians have been victims of possible activities conducted by these centers and that any form of intimidation, harassment, and harmful of diaspora communities or individuals in Canada will not be tolerated. So what these police stations really do is they intimidate those who speak out against the Chinese Communist Party. They keep an eye on those who might have fled the mainland due to political activities or what comments they made. And many of them are threatened because they still have family members back home who have to deal with the fallout. So they get harassed and intimidated. Many of them, they're not really harmed physically. It's the mental harassment and the fact that your family back home could be in jeopardy. If you decide to go back home to the mainland in China, you could be arrested and disappear for a while. Now, the probe has been going on for weeks, but could not provide an exact timeline. Of course, you don't give an exact timeline. And the Chinese community has voiced their concerns. Some people are threatened, some people are being intimidated. We certainly need their cooperation to further our investigation. Again, many Chinese people do not come forward, especially the recent immigrants. They should come forward and help us out with this. But again, it's that level of harassment and intimidation. What these secret police stations do is they find out where you live. They find out your phone number. They find out a whole bunch of information. They keep calling you. They visit you on the street, like just out of nowhere, and say some things to you. They just scare you. It's scare tactics. China says that these police stations are nothing more than help centers for those Chinese who on the mainland who have problems and need to get like passports renewed and stuff like that. That's a crock. You can do that all by mail or go to your local consulate. So it's also been confirmed that this is the first time an alleged police station operated by Chinese authorities has been detected in Quebec by the RCMP, because Quebec's not exactly a hotspot for Chinese immigration compared to Vancouver or Toronto, but it does exist. But they do settle in the city in the English-speaking areas. And the Mounties have created a phone line for people to use to report any threats. What we need to do is locate the actual people. It's time to do surveillance of any foreign nationals. We really do need a foreign agent registry and make the law so stiff, treat it as an espionage case if they don't comply. So they want to send a clear message to that community that when we hear their concerns, we're here for them. So this is a step in the right direction by putting it out there, letting people know, hey, the Canadian government is actually, and the RCMP and the police are actually aware of these things. And I think the best way to get rid of them is simply to close down Chinese consulates across the country. Close them down. Do not allow them to operate in Canada. Pass a bill, a foreign agent registry act that would compel any foreign agents doing anything in Canada to register their activities. That way they can be easily monitored. Do you honestly think that Canadian consulate staff, they get free will to go wherever they want in China? No, they don't. They get shadowed. There are minders in China when you're an official business. You'll have minders or people watching you. Also, when you live in China, if you're a foreigner and you live in a certain area, you have to report to the local Chinese police station. Your building manager will take a look at you, see who you are and what you do, and report to the local police station in China. They do it all the time. Like to us, even more invasive. Depending where you're from, the police will also visit your apartment from time to time and check on you. This one YouTuber, Serpent Ziza, from South Africa, he said many times when he lived in China, because they think South Africa that he's black when he's really a white Afrikaner, he would get like 4 of the biggest police guys they could possibly find to knock on the door of his apartment, burst in without him inviting them in. They just push their way in because they think there's a black guy and they think they're all black people are trouble, which is ridiculous. But that's how it is over there. And they're surprised that he's a white guy because they just don't know. They don't get it. But things like that happen in mainland China. I've had friends who lived there for a couple of years. They're very suspicious of foreigners. They can be very friendly people on the mainland, but they're also very suspicious of foreigners, especially among the older people. So, of course, Trudeau has to address the allegations, and he said we're making sure the RCMP is following up on this and that our intelligence systems are taking this seriously. This is an issue that concerns us enormously. So this was discovered back in 2022 December. Spanish Civil Rights revealed a report that there were Chinese police stations operating around the world, including 3 in Toronto, at least 1 in Vancouver. I would put that more like 2 or 3 in Vancouver, and maybe as many as 4 or 5 in Toronto. And there are probably more than 100 such stations in more than 50 countries. The stations serve to persuade people who Chinese authorities claim are fugitives living overseas to return to China to face charges. So if you're facing any kind of charges, if you say the wrong thing in China, post the wrong thing in China, or you're involved in some kind of corruption scandal and you decide to flee, then these secret police stations are there to persuade you to come home and confess your guilt. But they also double down on any immigrants who are there legally in Canada. They went through the whole process, they settled down, and if they start talking bad about the Chinese Communist Party, then they're there to also tell them don't do it, persuade them not to do it, or your families back on the mainland will be persecuted, which means they could lose their job, they could lose their social credit score will tumble, so they can't buy a home, can't travel, can't do a lot of things. Where you go to school. The social credit system that China has set up is very interesting and very 1984-ish. So it is time to have a Foreign Agent Registry Act and to make the laws tougher on those who the penalties are tougher. I think it's only 2 years in jail. I'd make it like 10. 10 years in jail, and you have to make a written confession, just like Kovrig and Spavor had to do. That, and I would start closing down Chinese consulates within the country and start pulling our consulates out of the mainland China. If worse comes to worse, we have every right on our own as an independent country to pull our foreign presence out of the mainland China and relocate to Taipei, Taiwan, because for all intents and purposes, Taiwan is an independent, democratic country, more in line with our values and ideals. It's time we start realizing that we are in a Cold War with China. Not that we wanted it, but it's what they want. Anyway, Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think of this, the Chinese police stations and the RCMP investigations. What could we reasonably do to get rid of them? And should we have the Foreign Agent Registry Act? Let me know in the comment section. And until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.